Good afternoon. I'll start with a quick assessment of our last game like I always do. It was good to come out of a bye and get a win. It was good to come out of a bye and get a divisional win. Some of the things that have characterized some of our negative performances did turn up in the early portions of the game, and we got to continue to work hard to work through those things in terms of finding rhythm early. We didn't get much done in the first quarter of the game. Penalties were an issue there. We turned the ball over, and we acknowledged last week that Cleveland was the best in the world at producing turnovers. So to go into a stadium acknowledging that somebody is, really solid in an area and still, not have a good enough performance in that area is troubling. We got to do a better job with ball security. That's going to be catastrophic to our efforts if we don't improve in those areas. We got to get the ball more on the other side, and I think those two things work hand in hand. We're not producing enough turnovers. I think we've gotten 9 and 7 games, and I think we were talking about 20s even last week prior to playing Cleveland in terms of their output. And so they're setting the standard there. We want to be in any of those conversations. We believe getting the ball will help us in our efforts. We got to get the ball more. We got to do a better job of maintaining possession of the ball. We're still continuing to work to improve in terms of our technique and our awareness from a penalty standpoint in an effort to reduce those, to improve our chances of winning. That first series of the game, we converted a 3rd down and 2. We got a penalty, it pushed it to 3rd and 11, and then we were punting. And, those are more than just plays. Those are possessions. And possessions obviously are significant. You look around today's NFL, particularly at the dominant teams, you can't afford to waste possessions. It's just the reality of it. But we found our footing. We made some splash plays. I thought our big people controlled the line of scrimmage as the game wore on, our offensive line, our defensive line, whether it was producing running lanes for James Conner and protection for Ben on offense, or minimizing the run so that we were in favorable possession down circumstances on the other side. And then we were able to pressure Baker Mayfield and try to get him off of his spot and create some negativity and win those down. So as the game unfolded, I thought those things became more evident. But obviously we got more work to do. We'll continue to do it this week. We'll do it with an edge as we prepare for more AFC North ball. And that is significant for us, our 3rd consecutive AFC North game, this one being on the road. Our senses are heightened, obviously. From a health standpoint, Ben had a fractured index finger on his left hand. It didn't prohibit him from being effective in the second half of the game, but obviously we'll look at it in terms of his availability this week and how it might affect him in a practice setting and so forth. Not anticipating it being an issue for him in play or in game, but I did talk about it after. I wanted to give you guys an update. Cody Sensabaugh will be managed day to day with his toe and see what that means for his availability. Marcus Gilbert missed the last game with the knee. He'll be given an opportunity to participate this week and see what that participation looks like in terms of his availability. I also would mention that, Matt, who filled in place of him, did more than a serviceable job, but we've come to expect that from Matt as we have the others. We don't have backups. We have starters and waiting. And the standard is the standard of expectation. And so guys like Matt and B.J. Finney and others, and there have been many already this year, make that phrase reality with their above-the-line performances, and we're appreciative of that. As we prepare for Baltimore, we prepare with an edge. Like I said, this is a significant game for us and for them. They're a 4-4 team. I know they're fighting to stay in the hunt, as are we. It's at their place. They're coming off 2 consecutive losses. They got a quality team, and hadn't been that long ago since we played them, but there are some significant things to acknowledge as we prepare for them. On the defensive side of the ball, the pressure that they put on the quarterback is a signature of their play. I think they got 27 sacks or so. It's Suggs and company. They do it the way that they do it. They get after your quarterback. They're really good blitzers. They beat blocks. They put consistent pressure on your passer. They couple that with tight coverage. You know, they're the number one defense in football. I think they're number 2 versus the pass. They got a veteran safety tandem in Weddle and Jefferson. Man, they do a lot. They're very versatile. Their pre-snap looks are challenging. They're interchangeable by concept or even just thoughtfully. Sometimes you'll see a concept and Jefferson will do it. The next time you'll see it in the game, it'll be Weddle doing it. And that just speaks to the versatility and the cohesion that they have within that tandem that makes operating from the offensive side more difficult. They also have Jimmy Smith back. They didn't have Jimmy Smith the last time we played him. We got a lot of respect for him. He's a quality shutdown corner. I'd imagine they're excited about having him back in the fold to go along with the other quality cover men. C.J. Mosley had missed some time leading up to our last game, and so our last game was the first game, I think, back for him. Boy, I'm seeing the benefits of consistent availability when it comes to C.J. Mosley, man. He's just you name a situation, he's a guy in the middle of it, whether it's coverage or whether it's rush, whether it's interior run or perimeter run. He is a vertical player. He's a horizontal player. He's got his name is in every discussion when you're talking about what they do on defense. So he's finding his rhythm. I know he missed some time there early. He's a big-time contributor to their efforts. On the offensive side of the ball, you know, it's all about Joe Flacco and the utilization of weapons and how multiple they are and the ways that they challenge you from a personnel standpoint. Got a myriad of tight ends. I think they got 4 in their roster. They've been suiting all 4 of them. And I'm talking about high pedigree guys. Guys that they've had like Doyle and Williams, but also the addition of guys like Andrews and their first-round pick, Hurst, who didn't play against us last time. So we got to be ready for the tight end personnel groups, the gapping and things that the use of multiple tight ends produces and their flexibility within it. The athleticism of those tight ends allow them to not only play traditional multiple tight end ball, but also spread you out and challenge you in the ways that Joe's comfortable doing from a spread standpoint. So we got a lot of work ahead of us. Quality special teams unit as always. Their specialists are top-notch. You know, we're excited about the opportunities that the journey presents, man. This week is no different than any other. Our hair is standing up for obvious reasons. There's AFC North football. It's a road game in Baltimore. Man, you got to love the National Football League. Questions?
Coach, late in the second quarter, it's 4th and 1. You're down on the Cleveland 4. Is there something you saw, a call that came in from one of the other coaches that made you go for the touchdown?
No, we just, you know, we're thoughtfully aggressive. I'm not going to speak to anything specifically that was the tipping point, but those that know us know that we play to win, and we don't live in our fears.
When you convert something like that, you're trying to play off the momentum to build momentum for later in the game and confidence, I assume.
You can assume. I'm just playing to win.
Mike, the last game against Baltimore, it seemed like they controlled the line of scrimmage. You mentioned that your team did that last week. Is it critical this week to make that happen against this team in particular?
You know, I don't know if they control the line of scrimmage as much as they control possession downs. You know, usually when you're losing possession downs, it's because they're less than favorable for you offensively, or they're very manageable for your opposing offense. We didn't do good enough on possession downs. We didn't do well enough on possession downs. And some of them were very manageable for our offense, and some of them were long for their offense. So, you know, as I look back at it, particularly in the second half of play where the game really unfolded, we didn't do enough on possession downs. We didn't get off the field on defense, and we didn't sustain drives on offense. I thought that was probably the singular most deciding factor in terms of how the game unfolded.
Mike, you guys had several touchdowns in the 2-minute drill at the end of half, so what's been the catalyst for that?
We work it hard. You guys watch us in training camp. You know, we work it every 2 or 3 days, and you know, you have an expectation when you work the way that we worked in that area specifically. And hopefully our guys have that expectation as well. I know that the results are probably indicative of those expectations, but when you put time into something, you expect the result of that work, and I think we're getting it in that area.
Mike, do you believe that your team's level of physicality has increased from earlier
I hadn't thought about it. I'd like to think that that's the case, and this is why. I think that the better you have an understanding of your job, the better that you have an understanding of how your job fits into the bigger picture. There's a couple things that happen. The more that you communicate and the faster people play. And I think good communication and fast play produces physicality. It produces certainty and movement. And I think that allows guys to play fast and free and thus more physical.
Mike, why didn't Artie play any defensive snaps last week?
He was late to a Saturday walkthrough, and then it was my choice not to play him. We'll keep working with Artie, man. He had a good week of practice last week. I don't want to make more out of it than what it is, but he was late, and we wanted to be focused with the guys that were wired in and appropriately where they needed to be in the hours leading up to kickoff. And so he suffered the consequences of that. We'll roll that ball back out and get back on task with him and others this week.
You mentioned practice, but if Cody can't go, do you feel confident in Artie?
I'll let you know after I watch this week's preparation, not only in regards to him, but Cody. We'll let his availability be our guide in terms of whether or not he plays. I mean what I say when I say that.
Is Cam Sutton involved in that now too, Mike, over there?
He's been involved.
But I mean, is he a possibility if Cody...
Anybody on the 53 is a possibility, including Brian Allen.
Baker Mayfield, he praised on the defense. He said even though they had 2 drives toward the end of the half, you guys basically stuck with your formula. And he basically said you were more proactive than reactive. Do you have the same assessment of that as well?
I'm not aware of his comments. I'll just say this. We build a plan week in and week out, and we generally stick to that plan, and we try not to be reactionary in thought. Part of being good in this league is eliminating problems before they happen. And if they do happen, you better eliminate them quickly. So I think that's always our mentality in terms of how we build plans or address issues or circumstances.
Mike, James Conner in the last Baltimore game, I think he had 9 carries, 19 yards. How much did you get away from him? How much did that have to do with controlling the time of possession and the possession downs that you're talking about? And was that kind of a tipping point to realize that the running game needed to be more?
Oftentimes run game or opportunities in the run game are controlled by game circumstance. We got down by 14, and then we didn't convert third downs in the second half, so we didn't have enough snaps. So that's going to minimize total number of carries. So you can paint whatever picture you want regarding the run game. The last time we played them, it never came to fruition for a number of reasons.
Your home crowd is chanting his name. Your quarterback has been so vocal in talking about how much he likes to play with him. What is it about him that people like so much?
He's run for 100 yards in 3 straight games. I mean, that's not hard to figure out,
Chanted lately on Bell's name, and he's done that.
I'm sure they have,
Mike, Baltimore's been able to keep their defense at the top of the league through all these changes. I know there's a strategic evolution and personnel evolution, but in your view, do they have the same kind of personality they had when they had, they subtracted a couple Hall of Famers, but is their personality the same to you? Do they look like the same?
They play defense, and generally they play football the way that they play football, and they have continuity. I think continuity allows you to do that with Coach Harbaugh in the league, but also, Coach Martindale. Coach Martindale might be new to the coordinator job, but I mean, how many years has Martindale been in Baltimore? They've got great continuity, and so as they go through changes, it's not changes. Some of the names have changed over the years, but a lot of their talent is homegrown and developed. It used to be Starks and McAllister, and there's Jimmy Smith, for example. It used to be Ray Lewis, and there's C.J. Mosley. Suggs has played forever and probably will continue to play forever. But I think continuity lends itself to that personality that you speak of that remains consistent.
Mike, can you speak to the difficulty of keeping continuity despite changing personnel? I mean, how difficult it is for you guys to do that? Not necessarily compared to another organization, just trying to keep that personality as you change.
Continuity is good provided that it's positive. When it's not, you got to make changes, obviously. So, I don't think a lot about continuity. I think a lot about, being competent and competitive and good. And continuity is just kind of born out of those things if you continually focused on those things.
Coach,
standard, how you have young players really stepping up and making a significant impact on your team. Talk about Mike Hilton as a young defensive back. You know, he did a great job against Jarvis Landry, and you know he's done quite well against some of those slot receivers. Talk about him coming from practice squad player to being a significant part of your defense.
You know, Mike's story is probably reflective of a lot of stories. Mike just works hard every day and takes advantage of opportunities given. And when he does, we give him more. And, you know, he wants to be a central reason why we're successful. And he's anteing up and kicking in daily. You know, those sub-package defenders don't get enough credit. You know, they might not be classified as starters, but guys like Mike Hilton and Morgan Burnett and L.J. Ford, man, are significant contributors to our effort. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we had all three of those sub-package defenders available to us last week, and that's probably why our third down performance probably in particular looked the way it looked. We haven't had a lot of games this year where all three of those guys were available to us. So it speaks to that continuity discussion, whether it's over the long haul and you're talking about an organization through the course of years, or you're talking about a unit week to week. Mike has missed some time with injury. Morgan's missed some time with injury. Fort's missed some time with injury. It's good to have all three guys available. I think that increases our chances of being successful in them significant possession downs in which they operate.
With today being the trade deadline, as long as you've been here, you've kind of held on to draft picks. Why is that so important? Why do you value them so much?
You know, we believe in homegrown talent. We invest time and resources into development of players. Players buy into what we're selling and work their tails off to improve and be reasons why we're successful. I think it's difficult to walk away from relationships when people are invested. We're invested. The players are invested. It is what it is.
Do you expect any movement for the Steelers today?
I hadn't thought a lot about it, to be honest with you. You know, I'm sure the phone may ring. We'll see what happens. But more than anything, I've just been focused on preparing for Baltimore.
Anyone else? All right.
Do you expect Le'Veon Bell back this year?
Any other questions? Y'all have a good evening.